I've got a confession to make.
I need to get this off my chest. As a business owner, we all make mistakes.
I've got to confess.
Hey guys, it's Charlie from Confessions of a Business Owner here, and today I'm very fortunate to be joined by the one and only Natasa Denman. How are you doing, Natasha?
I'm great, Charlie. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you on the show and very, very excited. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, Nat is the ultimate 48-hour author, and she excels in helping business owners write and publish their own book in a very, very tiny time frame than it takes most other people in that 48-hour window. So I'm really, really excited to have Nat on the show because she's just a wealth of knowledge and experience from the business world. So Nat, let's lead over to you. How's things on your side? Is the family all ready for the holiday you're about to take?
Yay, we're super ready. 7 sleeps to go till we spend a whole month in Thailand, getting a massage every single day and doing all the just family chill out stuff and and gaining all that energy that we used up in the first 4 months of this year, where we were on a plane every single week. Well, I was on a plane. Stuart had some weeks off, but we did 2 long-haul international trips as well as a national tour, and it was in and out. Having my mum look after the kids this year around, she's joined the business. So that was really exciting for her to come on board full-time and be taking care of those things when we need to get on a plane.
Absolutely. And this is one of the most amazing things about your business. So your business is very event driven. You run a lot of in-person events as well as retreats for people to actually write their book. How many events would you say, or events and retreats would you say you do in a year?
Collectively, I worked out there's about 50 events of my masterclasses, which are a bonus to our retreats. So there's 4 masterclasses, 4 retreats, and the others would be our half-day introductory seminar that people attend. So they average about 40. But when I collectively look at it each year, there's about 50 because we also do 2 group book launches. So all of those things do add up. And then another 50 I tend to speak at and be invited to be like a guest presenter. So the last 3 years I've been tracking at 90 to 100 events a year.
That's just amazing. 90 to 100 events a year. But here's the icing on the cake, and this is the part I love the most. And you strategically have 2 months off this time of year and then 2 months off at the other side of the year. So even really defining that to a window, which is just such a great way to have your business working more around your lifestyle.
Yeah, it totally is a lifestyle business because our kids are only 3, 6, and 9, and they really want to hang out with mum and dad at this point in time. And like they need our constant attention and care, and so we want to hang out with them as well, as certainly. And this is like, when you do need to get on a plane so frequently, it's coming and going, coming and going. They probably don't even understand what the hell is going on aside from the older one, but they're constantly going to the airport drive-through to pick us up or drop us off. And but we all know we continue to communicate what this is all about. And they get to take 2 big breaks during the year themselves from their school and all that. So they get to have those 2 summer breaks, the European one and the Aussie one.
Well, they're very fortunate, and I don't think they would have life any other way. But I was wondering if you could take us back and tell us a little bit more about the ultimate 48-hour author.
Yeah. Well, Ultimate 48-Hour Author came about because I wrote my 3rd book with a co-author of mine by going away on a weekend and reverse engineering that process of how I wrote half a book in just 3 hours on a weekend. And I thought, well, if I can do half a book in 3 hours on a weekend, I'm sure if I gave people 7 hours where they can execute in the 6, the 12 chapters, which is what our system is based around, and then in the 7th hour they can do an introduction and afterward, and this way they can finish it, and then I can actually include some marketing, leveraging information, have a bit of fun at this particular retreat. And that was launched in October 2013, which has now eventuated into having completed 21 high-end retreats with over 250 people being published through our program.
Which is so, so cool. Over 250 published authors, and it kind of came out of you experiencing it from there. But one of the
Yeah.
things I really like about the whole going away for a retreat experience is it kind of forces you to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
You can't cheat it.
I actually say I trick people. I trick people into following through because people cannot be trusted. And normally, Charlie, the people we attract are first-time authors. And actually, just this week, after we get off this call, I'm pressing send on my 9th book manuscript to the editors because I wrote another book called Shut Up and Write Your First Book. And the tagline to it is Get Over Yourself. And there's 48 reasons that stand in your way. So I finished this book because I'm so sick and tired of people giving up on this dream, which most human beings have to fulfill and write at least one book in their lifetime. And I just wanted to overcome that because I realized my system is awesome, but unless I can help them get over themselves and take that leap of faith to finish that first book, they're never going to do it. So really, that's my passion, is now also handling the mindset really heavily before they actually do the process, because a process, anyone can follow a process, but if you don't have the mindset, you're never going to even get started.
I completely agree. So to take that deeper, what are the most common ones you see? Because you must see a lot of them.
There's 48, right? And guess why I chose 48? Because obviously Ultimate 48-Hour Author. But look, the most common ones are, I'm worried no one will read my book. What if I get stuck with a garage full of books? Actually, there's about 27 mindset ones. I share about 12 or so process challenges. Like, I don't know how to structure it. I have too much content. I don't think I have enough content. Don't know what publishing, or what the publishing industry demystified and all that kind of stuff. And then the third level of challenges is how to leverage it and monetize the book. So I share about 10 different things, addressing the issues around, getting stuck with books and not knowing, how to utilize them or what to put in them to be able to then leverage them further. So, and then in addition to the book, I thought I'm going to add in a fourth part to this book, and I asked my authors to interview them. Not in an interview in this style, but actually just a 7 questions, same 7 questions to a series of authors. And I said, I'm interested in actually getting 10 of you guys into my new book. And, I want a variety of challenges that they had and also outcomes and different styles of businesses and genres. Funny enough, I got over 50 people respond from our authors. And literally the last 3 days, I've been reading through 50 interviews, and these are 1,000-word interviews. So I actually have a whole book and a half of words of interviews. So what I decided to do is I would put the top 12 in the book that I think have the variety of what I'm looking for, and then put a downloadable resource and PDF with the rest of them, because, hey, we're all about leverage, right? So why wouldn't you have like a lead magnet in the book to get people to get the extra interviews? And of course, by sharing all of that stuff, people kind of go, oh my God, this is real, what I'm going through. It's like pretty much nearly every single person is saying this same kind of stuff went on for them.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you just touched on all the ones I was thinking in my own mind. So I'm like, wow, no, she's on it, because it's absolutely true. It's like, I think there's a big part of yourself you do need to get over to start publishing and put yourself out there in all fields. Yeah. I mean, it's something you've been doing for a long time, but I'll admit it took me a while to get over myself to do the podcast, because I was really concerned. Oh my God, what if no one listens? What if we do it terribly?
You've been a bit of a behind the scenes kind of guy doing other stuff for people, and you're awesome at that. And putting yourself like more publicly out there is, it can be scary. But I say to people, after 250 people, I know how you breathe, how you think, how you make decisions, who's going to go through and who isn't. Like, I literally can see all of their, I know when a person says no to us, I know exactly why they're saying no, and it's nothing to do with time and money.
So it's funny that how well you know your niche after doing it so many times. It's just brilliant. And I really look forward to that book coming out there. I think it's probably very applicable to a lot of people, as well as just books itself, which is cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, I had the idea on my birthday 7 days ago, put it this way. I was in the cinemas, in the Gold Coast cinemas, and as the movie was finishing, I had it just run through my head, and I said, oh my God, I have to rush home and get this out. And I finished it in 24 hours. So literally came home. As I was driving home, I was recording my voice in terms of what are the 48 reasons. Got home to about 35, and I sat down with Stuart and said, can you help me come up with 48? I want to get to 48. And we did it in like 10 minutes. I said, okay, see you later. I'm going in my room. So I recorded my 48 mini 3-minute recordings, which eventuated into 30,000 words. My transcriptionist typed them all up. He was sending me through about 12 a day. So I was like, as he was finishing some, I was cleaning them up, because you got to do a bit of a cleanup process. But literally, I only started writing this book like 8 days ago.
Isn't that fantastic? And I love that the integrity factor is high, because you, as well as teaching this stuff, you live it, like you operate it, and even do it quicker.
Every year I do a book. That's my kind of thing. Like, not because I go, I'm going to write a book every year, but I have a surge of an idea that I just can't wait to get out there. And therefore I just set the time, do it, and then it comes out, and it adds so much more value into the business. And then obviously passive income as well, because now people are not just buying one of my books, they want the whole collection.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that. And it's a really good entry point as well, because it ties into everything else. But before we get into some book stuff, because I have a lot of book questions as well that I want to see for today, but I really want to get into your confession, because I think it's an absolute cracker. So Natasa Denman, it's your turn to confess on Confessions of a Business Owner.
Well, my confession is that I only had one paying client when I chose to write my first book, called The 7 Ultimate Secrets to Weight Loss. And as much as people say, oh, you have to have a bit of a following and some kind of establishment of credibility and expertise, I still went on and wrote that first book. And actually, by the time it was released, I had only 2 paying clients and had only generated $7,000 in revenue in my business in my first 13 months. But when that book came out, the turning point and defining change was that, of course, I started being taken more seriously, more credible as an expert, and thus I grew my coaching practice and the business to 6 figures the following 12 months, all whilst having my second baby 2 days after the first book was born. So the baby was born, which was Mika, and literally I had to just do everything between breastfeeds to grow the business and not having to return to my day job, which I didn't obviously quit until I had to go on maternity leave with Mika.
Well, there it is. I love it. It's so good and timely on the rest. And I mean, we could even do a whole episode just on being a mum. And I know you've got a fantastic book on guilt-free parenting, which I actually have at home, by the way.
Yeah, cool.
Which is very cool. But when you look at this from there, and it's like, it very much feels like I'm going to say fake it till you make it moment. It was something where you probably, or I'm going to paraphrase, but you necessarily didn't feel you had the chops to do something like this. What got you over the line and got you to follow through with writing that book?
So a lot of people that I meet have the self-doubt and am I good enough kind of stuff, and will anyone read it? And I didn't have that. To me, it was like the pain behind not being able to monetize my business and get clients through the door. So for me, the reason I wrote the book, and some of my authors that I interviewed have varying reasons. A lot of them can be like, things that were preventing them were a lot of mindset, which I know it's the majority of people. But for me, it was lack of clients, lack of being able to generate leads, to be taken seriously, credibility, because you can be the best coach in the world, but if you don't know how to market yourself and have a well-oiled machine that keeps bringing in clients and replenishes them and all sorts of stuff, you're gonna have to end up being at a job. And having this pain behind me that another baby was coming, I had invested in a $15,000 coaching course to complete and other courses. I invested about $40,000 in mentorship and programs and obviously courses in that first 12 months. So I really wanted to get return on investment, and certainly not having to return to a boss and a day job. And I had tried already 50 or 60 other marketing things, all the way from the old-fashioned style stuff to, social media and networking and speaking and all that kind of stuff. But it was only when the book came out, in combination with some of those other things, that I started getting more inquiries, and more people are going, oh my God, my coach is an author. And, they were really proud of working with a coach who was already an author. And that was really, I knew that I only had 5 months of paid parental leave from the government for when you have a new baby. So I didn't want to go to a day job. So I think if you put enough pain behind your situation and you kind of feel like there's no way out, I think you just do it. You kind of go from a place of, I have no other option. I have to make this work and I have to keep putting myself out there and doing stuff. So that's what I did.
That's brilliant. And I think that's so awesome that you were able to kind of use it as motivation, because it can be pain, or that fear can be very crippling for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes people can be too comfortable, like in having things they can fall back on and things, things like that. For us, it was that Stuart had also lost business, and that was the first point where I decided to go into coaching, was thinking that I was going to help other people, but it was more to help me first of all before I could help others. And that's what was another leverage point to really create a, no going back kind of situation.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, how quickly did the book have an impact on your business? Like, you'd written this book. Was it as soon as you put it out there, you noticed a sudden impact, or was it a gradual thing?
Well, let me make a second confession that is in line with the first confession, and that is the misconception that people think that just because you bring out a book, all of a sudden magically the floodgates will open. And certainly the way I phrased it, that's what it may have seemed. But the second strategy to marry up this book was the fact that I was told when I came out of my coaching school that I should go out networking twice a week and become a member of a couple of groups in my community or within reason, and turn up regularly and get to know people and get people to know me, because I did not know one other business owner when I went out to be a business owner. So I had zero network. And
I've got to laugh really hard at that point with how many people you know now. To know no one at that point had a crazy difference. That's just because I see you as the ultimate networker.
Right. So back 8 years ago, which is anniversary for the business was a week ago, and my birthday is actually always the anniversary for my business, and it was 8 years we celebrated. And so zero network, only my high school friends and my people in the optometry world, which is where I came from. And so I did. They said, you got to go out networking twice a week. So I turned up to 2 events every week. So which means how many events did I go to after 52 weeks? 104, right? Yeah. So after having gone to 104 events and turned up to some of them regularly and become a member, of course, the ones where I was a member, people almost, they grow to like you, trust you, you become buddies. And of course, they're going to refer business to you or they'll have opportunities for you, right? And that's where I always say to people, get famous offline before you get famous online, because it's those offline high touch strategies that fast track the business growth. And so when the book came out, I had already been to 104 events. So when I returned to some of my regular events and new events and introduced myself with the book, people took even more notice. And then they said, oh, we can connect you with this chiropractor or this personal training studio, because they were my ideal joint venture partnerships where I could speak in front of their clients and therefore get some of my weight loss coaching clients. Because how do you refer someone for weight loss coaching? You don't go, oh, you need to lose weight. Go talk to Nat. You can't do that. So you kind of got to go the backdoor entry of maybe delivering value in front of an audience that works with another expert in health, and therefore getting, the opportunities of signing up clients for weight loss coaching. So those two things. So the other thing, so as I said, write the first book, but in the meantime, you network twice a week and you get to know people, people get to know you, because then they want to help you spread the message and help you grow the business.
I think you just dropped an absolute nugget of gold there that is often ignored by most people. And I want to ask you the question because it's come up on the show before. Do you believe the modern business owner is hiding behind a screen? Do you think they're not?
Yeah, totally. Oh God. It's like, I think I've written blog pieces on this. Get the F from behind your screen. Get out into the world, talk to people. I fly to Dubai and to America to launch the business, and I needed to be there physically so people can build trust, know, and like with me much faster. There's no way they're going to sign up for my program just over the internet. I would need to be nurturing them probably for 7 years or something like that. So yeah, the modern business owner is hiding and thinking, I'm going to set up this funnel and I'm going to set up this online course and I'm just going to make money while I sleep. And I think it's just a bit of BS. I think that stuff happens but build your credibility, build your testimonials and all that kind of stuff. And certainly then you have the money to reinvest, because you having worked in a lot of digital marketing and stuff, it takes testing and measuring and finances to get something to hit a sweet spot where it's producing that positive cash flow.
Well, I have the same belief as you. And like I had, as many people would know, is like I worked in digital marketing for many years and had a marketing agency. So it's like we had the skills in-house to do all the marketing stuff. But for us, it was the in-person relationships that made the difference. Yeah. So my belief is it's like, your in-person relationships that you may have met online, but still have in-person relationships. And then your digital marketing becomes like petrol to a fire, where I think a lot of people kind of go and expect their digital marketing to be the fire, if you will, in that analogy. So in-person's made a huge difference across all things.
And when I reverse engineer where people have come from my Facebook ads into my event and how often they have seen it online before they've actually come into it, and the fact that someone who did a book with me now had talked about me, and so they checked me out first before they sign up. So when you connect the dots, you will see that the majority of time there will be some kind of a personal connection or a high touch moment that you had with some connection of that person, and that's why they've actually ended up into your room. Because people are skeptical. A lot of people, when I went to America, because in such a cold market over there, they were like, I kind of signed up, but I didn't know if you were real. And I kind of Googled you, and then I turned up, and of course you're real and all that kind of stuff. And so they say, when you go into cold markets, this is why I like kind of decided after doing the quite a lot of international work the last 18 months that I won't do it next year. I mean, certainly if people from other countries inquire through me, I'll help them remotely, but I will not go for business purposes to other countries, because you just got to be there. I feel like, if I lived in America, I'd smash it out, right? And if I lived in, the Middle East, I would also smash it out, because I will get out there and I will talk to people, and I'll have multiple events the way I do the regular cycles here in Australia. And that's what that repetition and the consistency that builds the sort of exponential growth in time.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. And I mean, that's a big decision for you as well. I know you've had a lot of success over in the other countries as well, but we've got to give a bit of Australia represent. I think it's a great decision.
Well, Mustafa, who was my partner in Dubai, actually realized, and I said, look, it's draining having to go on such long trips away from the family. And always, when you go on a long haul trip, you need to be kind of away for nearly 2 weeks. Whereas in Australia, you can be gone on Monday and be home by the Friday, and you have covered off maybe even 3 major cities, and you come home for the weekend, and it almost feels like, oh, well, my working week this week is in WA or in South Australia or New South Wales or up in Queensland, and it doesn't feel like you're away from home as much, or it doesn't disturb your obviously health and well-being with all the jet lag that people experience traveling that far. And so Mustafa is actually building and helping spread this around the Middle East in a more remote fashion. So yes, we did a retreat there in January, and it was amazing, and it was super successful, and these guys all coming through with their books, which in that market they work more on word of mouth. So all of these guys are like really a sales force on the ground for us over there. And he said, look, I'm such a systems guy, I'm going to set up how all of this can be done. Obviously, it can be done remotely, of course, but retreat is the ultimate and ideal way to execute it, and it's such a memorable experience for people, especially because it's their first book. And he goes, and you just do the expert kind of unpacking with the people, and then we'll put up systems where it's going to babysit the clients, and you're not going to have to do that work. So if he sets all of that up, I don't care. Like, I'm here because it's my intellectual property. And I'm happy for that to be in that way, and reward him in his share of setting all of that up and allowing it to be global without me needing to be there.
That's fantastic. You found a way to create leverage from it, which I think is very cool.
Yeah, I love it.
So I want to shift the conversation just a little bit here. And I want to ask more specific questions about actual books now and what you do in a different way from there. So when we look at this, I'm desperate to know this one because I've thought about it and I've seen things, is like, what's the most common mistake you see with people writing a book these days, or people that go about writing a book?
They move the focus away from the content too early on. And that's actually something I've realized more in the last 6 to 8 months. I've prepped my people and they know all about making things sexy and all that, and I'll teach them how to unpack and focus on the content, because the content is the most time consuming stuff, right? Once you have that, you can doll it up with pictures, images, your offers, your lead magnets. You can build all that stuff, but get the freaking content into the editor. Once it's across the editor, that's why I'm so excited to be sending this manuscript of mine as soon as we get off the call, because then I know I'm on the home stretch. As soon as my content's in, I still haven't submitted my offers for the book or picked certain images and all that. That's for layout stage, and I'll get organized. At least the editor will be working on it now for the next two potentially 3 weeks. But they get stuck, and if you don't get the content across, which is the mammoth task that everyone sees, that's the thing that's going to hold you back from actually finishing the book. So focus on content. Don't worry too much about sexy names and stuff. Do the first round of that. And this is what I do with my people in our one-on-one session before they come to a retreat, and I give them a whole prep manual and all that. But I said, if you do nothing else, it's all about content right now. Forget about all the marketing and all that. We're going to talk about that at retreat. But right now, I just want you to be working on content.
Brilliant. I think that's a really interesting point of view, because it's funny, I've laid out things for a book before and even conceptualized them, and I completely agree. I focused on other things that never got done. So it's like I can see how that can be quite easy to fall away from there.
Because the other things you could organize probably in a day. If you sat down and really focused on, this is going to be my offer and this is how it's going to look at the back and this is going to be my testimonials and all that. They're just like logistical bits. It's the other 40,000 words that is the mammoth task.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when you look at a book then, or someone comes and writes a book, what are the indicators you look at to define it as a success? Like, do you watch Amazon sales or downloads or views on Facebook? I'm not sure.
After the fact of them having had the book, or before? Because there's two.
Let's do both. I think that's a really good question on both sides.
Okay, so before someone decides to book, we do a book, we qualify them. And the qualifying process is there to determine if they're wanting to write a book within a niche that I believe you can monetize and get your return on investment. Okay, so writing a book that for stay-at-home mums, it ain't gonna probably do very well, because they may not have, if it's the book that they just want to buy, $20 or $30 product, yes. But if you have a more high-end offering you really want to get them to, which is where our focus is, we don't want you to make money from books. We actually want you to make money from whatever training or program or service you've got to provide beyond the book. So that's why I never look at how many books has someone sold. I ask them, how many high-end clients did you sign up? How many high-end programs did you sell? How many online courses have you converted, because someone read your book and then they went on to join your online course. So they're the things. So the before is like, what's your target market? Do I believe there's a niche in this? Is your niche pretty cool? Has it got a bit of a point of difference? Have you got the results that you're talking about here? Is there integrity behind the topic? Okay, because if there's no integrity, I don't care how awesome your book is. People can smell it a mile away. And you need to live and breathe. So I actually look at those things before I qualify people. And number 4 is, do you pass our no dickheads policy?
I like that one the most. No dickheads policy. But that's a really interesting point I hadn't considered, is like, even before you write the book, the niche selection and who it's for is just so important.
That's why it's compulsory for people I've made it compulsory for people to attend my half-day workshop before they even think about retreat. I hate when they come and just want to talk about retreat immediately, because they actually haven't got the foundational information to fully understand the value behind the program, but also to understand the positioning, to look at a book unpack, to understand the publishing. It's a half-day event. And I actually have a film professional. Actually, you were in the room that day when we were filming, I think. I think it was the last year. Oh, no, you weren't. You came this year. But anyway, I have it filmed professionally. So if anyone inquires online and they cannot come to my half-day, I'm happy to share the footage. And I said, once you've watched the 3.5 hours footage, then let's have a more informed discussion and you kind of understand what I've taught. Because if anyone ends up at retreat and they haven't been to the half-day, which happens very, very rarely, they feel out of the loop. It's like, I don't repeat kind of that information again in my retreat, because that's the foundational stuff you should actually know before you decide to do the stuff. So this is where someone can walk in with a book idea about X, and by the end of the 4 hours, they're going, oh my God, I was so totally going to write the wrong book. And then they go, no, my book is Y. And I go, talk to me about that one. Let's see if that one would qualify. So we generally, 80% of people who have our qualifying chat with will qualify, because obviously others disqualify themselves according to what they've heard. And then, of course, 20% desperately want to do it, but maybe I think they're not ready and all that sort of stuff, or it's just not a fit for our program. So that's the before. And, of course, the after, how do you measure success? Well, I now have all those 50 interviews of authors that have been with me from retreat 1 to retreat 21. I actually got such a variety of responses back from pretty much, I reckon, every retreat has a representative author. And there was a question: what is happening now that your book has been out? And for some, the book's been out 4 years. For some, it has been 3. Some in publication currently, and others maybe just a month or 2. And the variety of responses was very interesting. I was actually gobsmacked how much has happened. I was like kind of thinking sometimes the quieter ones, you kind of go, oh yeah, maybe they were just happy they did the book. That was the bucket list kind of thing to do. Because not everyone aims to have a super successful business because of the book. For some people who come to us, it really is that bucket list item or a healing process. Okay. And however, it was just amazing. Just all of the responses that I read in these answers to that particular question, some were hugely financially skewed, like 100 times return on investment because of the book. You know, other ones was more about I've skyrocketed my confidence, my ability to respect myself and others respect me and all that kind of speaking gigs, international stuff. It was just like, oh my God, I've never actually done this research on my clients. So now this is a great way for me to kind of go, shit, what I do is pretty cool and I love it. I actually got a little bit emotional while I was reading some of them. I was like, I'm changing people's lives here.
How awesome is that?
Yeah.
I think that's the point of having a business, is providing that transformation. So that's so cool on many levels.
Yeah.
But it sounds like for a lot of cases, it's almost like intangible outcomes. So it's not like, So setting that as an expectation is really interesting, because I'm quite a data-driven guy, no surprise. So I want to go, oh, cool, that's, 4,000 Facebook hits and we got X amount of sales and it turns into this. But I can really see, and even from your own experience, that writing can kind of open doors we didn't know existed or may not be able to connect the dots on.
Yeah, I mean, I think my books have absolutely grown my business and my credibility and everything. But even in saying that, I couldn't reverse engineer exact figures and all that kind of stuff, but I know they play a huge part in how I grow as an individual, what I think about myself and how others perceive me as well. So I would say it would be 70% weighed on the personal transformation. And actually I developed a quote a few years ago, and I always finish off my half day on the quote, and I always say that, it's not actually about writing your first book. It's about the person you become at the other end of it. And it is that person that respects themselves more, has grown in confidence and self-esteem, that all of a sudden starts attracting people into their system or their business who want to say, I want to have what she's having. And therefore, it's the person that shifts, then the business grows. As we know, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, you are your business. If you're going through mental funk, so will your business will suffer. If you're looking after yourself, you're staying positive, you're being resourceful and all that kind of stuff, your business is going to skyrocket.
I completely agree with that. And I just want to loop back around to something which I really took from your half-day event last time I was there. And it was quite interesting. And there was this lovely young woman that had gotten up and was working with you on the whiteboard. And she'd written out the chapters of her book on the board. And I was looking at them, I'm like, okay, I can see this from there. And then what was absolutely mind-blowing from my point of view, and I'm tipping you probably come across this a lot, is she was writing the book she wanted to write, not the book her audience wanted to read. And it was really interesting when you gave her that shift in the room, because you worked with her to help her understand, to create something that her audience would love, how everyone in the room then suddenly wanted the book. And she had this big aha moment. So when you've gone back to that pre-work there, it's just so vitally important in how it comes through.
Yeah, because a lot of people want to tell their story, but I said there's more gold in your story if you actually make it relevant to other people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So what's the best strategy you've seen to take people from readers of a book into like leads or into contacting you, or in, I suppose, we see many of them, and I'll give an example, is like we see many books these days that might have a quiz with them or extra resources. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That bonus to the book, always have a bonus to the book that can be downloaded as an extra resource. And it's a great strategy if you've overwritten too many words. Like one of our authors was just in the last retreat, wrote over 80,000 words, whereas our package covers about 40,000. So she wrote 2 books in effect. But to publish 80,000 words would be extra costs and expenses. And not many people are going to read 80,000 words, realistically, in today's busy world. So Stuart suggested to her, why don't you just extract some of this information, put it in a PDF, have it as a bonus to the book. It will generate leads and all that. And that's what I did with the interviews as well. It's like, I'm not going to waste these awesome, amazing interviews that would add value to people, but also make us look even better, right? So I'm going to put them in a PDF. And that needs to be mentioned early in the book, around introduction chapter 1. So if they're getting a sample of Amazon, they can still see the bonus and opt in even if they haven't bought the book. And then to be repeated at the back of the book as, you know, you might want to mention it 2 or 3 times. I don't think every 5 minutes or every end of chapter, like sometimes people do overkill on the call to action. I think I only put it at the start and at the very end, and you know, you can do a couple of more times, but don't do overkill on it. Of course, having a couple of additional offers at the back, like your speaker bio, because then your speaker bio you can print it off, and then you can look out for opportunities to present as a speaker. And that was my second thing. So one is more an online strategy, and the speaking is more the offline strategy to really monetize your book. Because when you go and get a speaking gig because you're an author, and then you speak and you've got your book and your table set up and all that kind of stuff, and then you make an offer, people are more likely, and of course bundle your offer with your book, right? So when someone buys an intangible offer, hey, take home the book and then we'll catch up for a session, or my half day I bundle with the book. So every time I do a speaking gig, my call to action is come to my next half day. I give a special price instead of $87 for $50. Whenever I do a speaking gig, you get to take home my book, which in effect is, let's say, $30. They see awesome value. It's a no-brainer. And that's how I get more and more people coming through the half day, which a lot of them, when they've seen me once and then they see me again, so long as we're a good match and we like each other, usually we'll progress and actually do the full program, which is where the monetization occurs. So I think the 2 are the bonus downloadable and the speaker stuff for getting offline and getting, you know, in with people so that actually physically see your book, and you gain further credibility and clients.
I think that's 2 great strategies there, and a lot of gold you just dropped. I think many people will probably listen to that a couple of times, because many authors want to speak, is my experience. I would say 90% of people who write a book want to do speaking gigs. And I think something really clever is when you have the speaking bio there, is you're letting people know you do speak. And I think that's often forgotten.
Yeah, like, you know, then because it's graphically designed, it looks prettier in the back of the book, and you can print it off in color or something. You know, usually it's printed black and white in a book. Color books are so expensive to produce, so I don't recommend that. But you print it off for yourself in an A4, and you can laminate it, or just have nice printed, good quality printed copies. And most people I tell this strategy will never do a speaker bio, and it's so silly, because going prepared and introducing yourself to organizers and sending stuff, you know, when people post, we're looking for speakers for our event, how many people respond? Like 200 people. And it's like, yeah, I can do this, but don't respond. Just inbox the person and say, hey, saw your post. Here's my speaker bio. If you're interested, this is what I can bring value to you. And then they look and see you as more professional, and you're taking it off the sort of that platform where probably you're getting lost in all the comments, but then they're going, oh my God, this person's doing something a bit different. They're actually making my life easier, because then you don't even have to send them pictures of yourself, your bio to read out as an introduction. They've got the choice of the topics, the takeaways. So it's kind of everything's on one piece of paper.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do a little sneaky, even send them a book, because you'll have one.
Exactly. Oh, absolutely. Like, you know, I always offer my book as a door prize whenever I go to a networking event where I'm not speaking. So then often if you donate a door prize, of course you look very, I guess, not credible, but the organizer likes you because you've kind of given something to the event. And often they'll get me to speak about the giveaway, like the door prize. They say, oh, Natasha donated this book. Tell us a bit about your book, right? I'll go and I do like a 30-second kind of thing, but then I get noticed and I've created a mini speaking gig for myself. And then often what has happened is that organizer has come towards the end of the event. They say, you reckon you want to speak one of the next 3 months at the next event or something like that? And I go, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. So win yourself a speaking gig, get yourself a bit of a spot on the stage if you're giving it away as a door prize, and you get remembered, and people in the room that are relevant for you or that kind of are curious in the problem you're solving, they'll come up to you after that and then, oh, it's really interesting what you do. Tell me more about it.
That is such a good strategy. It's not
Yeah.
funny because you just created all the opportunity and actually got your book into someone's hands.
Yeah, and it cost you what? Like anywhere maximum $7 or $8, and my books cost me about $3 because I print about 1,000 at a time because I move through them very quickly. So the more you print, the cheaper it is, the less you print. But at the worst, it'll be $7 or $8.
Absolute bargain for that type of opportunity.
Yeah.
Now that kind of leads me into my next question here.
Yeah.
It's undoubtable that writing a book has exploded since you've gotten into this industry. Like it's become something that's more and more common, which I think is a really great thing.
Or is it?
Oh, well, I'm certainly noticing a lot more books. I think a lot more people I know have books as well. But if it's the same, I think this question is still a good question to ask.
Yeah.
What have you seen work best for getting people to buy or download or get your book in the hands of people and then getting them to read it?
So, can I clarify the question? So, what works best to get the book in people's hands, kind of thing? Yeah. Again, getting out there. I think books by themselves, put on a landing page and shared around social media, are not going to really just sell for themselves unless you have a celebrity profile, right? Of course, joint ventures and where you give people some kind of a little package. If they've got your ideal client, and if their ideal client signs up with them and they get some bonus from you, to add value to that, is a great way. Like I am affiliated with a professional personal branding photographer, and of course people who want to be speakers and grow their personal brand should absolutely have a book. So as their intro pack, he gives them my book and a ticket to my half-day workshop. And that's a great way to sort of move the books, but get my ideal clients to find out about me to help more. But other ways, I always just use speaking, events, like that's my thing. Like, the books just go. People buy one and they talk about it. I mean, the focus is really, I don't focus on my book sales. It's not the be all and end all if I end up having, a few boxes of books in my garage, but I know they're constantly moving because I'm constantly out there. Yeah. So I'm constantly reordering. So I prefer to keep a large stock of my signature book. And then I keep about 100 of each other title, because now I'm getting to 9 books. You can imagine there's so many. When I need to pack 2 or 3 of these, 2 or 3 of those, then I kind of really strategically think, what am I going to sell? Because when we get on planes, that's also more of a challenge. Even though nowadays I'm kind of posting stuff to my authors' cities, and kind of they're storing it in their home, a box or 2 for me, which they don't mind doing because we create a family-like feel in our program. And so I have my person in Adelaide, my person in Perth, and Francesca in Brisbane, who stores stuff in her a co-working space for me, and I store stuff for her down here. So, it's you'll sell more books the more books you write as well, and the more you work on your profile. So I think a book never ages, unless, of course, the content is something that can get outdated, like, say, social media strategies and all that kind of stuff. But I believe every book that I have written, has, a lifetime or forever kind of thing.
I think you've just nailed something there that's so strategic and powerful in that. I'm going to call it your joint venture book deal, if you will. Because if someone like you're wanting people to write a book, that's your offering. And then you've got someone who's in personal branding. To have that person hand your book and an event ticket as a bonus, like they're very in tune to wanting to work on their personal brand because they're working with him. That's almost like worth 1,000 people having your book. because that
Yeah.
specific person is just so much more valuable to be reading that information at that time. So that's very cleverly put together. I think all authors could look into that or think about that and be strategic with who's got their book or giving it out.
Yeah, totally. I mean, even when I started out, I didn't have my own book, but I loved a book by Terry Hawkins. There are 2 times in life, now and too late. And it was kind of like a little mindset book that I loved when she spoke at a conference when we used to work in the optical industry. And I bought it and she signed it for me. And since then I had followed her, and she was my first entrepreneur that I ever kind of followed, I was inspired by. And when I started my business, I actually bought about 15 of her books and her little stickman figures this was a figure featured in her book. And whenever a client would sign up with me, I would give her book and her stickman figure as one of the starter packs. Not that she gave them to me. I actually paid for them at full price and everything. However, so many people were inspired by her because I recommended her, that they all looked her up and joined her monthly. She used to do like a monthly 1-hour thing where you get a CD in the mail and you pay $10 a month. And obviously, I think she got a lot of business and people following her because of what I was doing for her. So that's a reverse order of, me having done it for someone else, and now other people are doing it for me.
Yeah, it's very cool. Which kind of ties well into my next question is, who are the authors or the books that you like?
Who do I like to read? I love to. Well, I've asked you for recommendations before, Charlie, and I like the recommendations you give me. So I think we have a similar kind of taste or appreciation. But I love just personal development, business style, mindset stuff. I'm not into fiction. That's Stuart. He loves his fantasy and fiction books, and like he reads books this thick. I hate books that thick. I like it to be like that 160 pages. So I can, because I have the deep desire and commitment to completion. And if I feel I haven't completed something, it's like I feel really like crap. Like, and a lot of people say that's their biggest issue is that they don't complete stuff. Whereas everything I've studied, I've started, I've completed, I got my diploma, I got my black belt in Taekwondo, I got my other degree, I've got everything I started, my coaching stuff, all my books, I start them, I finish them. I just want stuff finished. So I love reading stuff like that. And the thing that I do when I read is like, I don't read for the sake of, it's not pleasure reading, it's almost how can I get better? What new strategy can I learn that I can implement and it's practical in my life? How can I think about develop my thinking even more and all that sort of stuff? So that's what keeps me going, that I want to be a better version of myself and, obviously be able to turn up in life a lot better and deal with the mental funk. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's funny that like in my own way, it's like reading one chapter of a good book can completely change my day. It's like it can energize me or lift me or make me see something completely different. And I think that, most business owners I know that are in the same boat. They love reading things or getting something out of a book or a new idea or a concept, and are heavy readers. It's a very, very common thing.
Yeah, I used to read a lot more in the first 3 years of my business, like really a lot, like just, I guess, trying to find ways to market on a shoestring budget, no money, what can you do, all the different ideas in that. In the last 4 or 5 years, I just going in and out from it. Like, I'll get a good book, and sometimes when I do, I'll read it in 2 days and I have all this inspiration. And the recent book by Mark Manson, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, that one is really easy to read. I love easy to read books. I don't like complicated language because English is not my first language. And so I hate when I get stuck on something or I don't understand it or it's too analytical. I like to read stories, insights here and there. I was just reading a book now, More Funny, More Money, about bringing more comedy and stuff into your speaking and into your sales and all that kind of stuff. And that was really easy to read. And I finished that like in 2 or 3 days. Got it for my birthday the other day. So I like stuff and this is why actually my system about speaking out a book is so powerful, is because people deliver easy to read books. Okay, because when we speak, we don't use complicated language, and the content can be read twice as fast. I don't know if you knew that. So my book can be read in 3.5 hours, whereas normally a 40,000 word book that was typed may take about 7 hours to read, right? And so these kind of things are important to me, and everyone's different, but that's what I prefer.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point you've made there as well. It's funny how we can get straight to this point when we speak, but when we type, it's like we use words that we would never say.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Like complicated long ones. It's like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So I thoroughly agree with that, and I find myself, it's like I almost read as well for the interest of the art. It's like I find it fascinating.
Mm.
Like a book can, like if I read, for instance, if I read something by Ryan Dice from Digital Marketer, like
Hmm.
he's going to put the latest marketing strategies in the book of how to generate leads from a book. So I get fascinated on reading it for that reason.
Hmm.
And then the other side of things is that I'm incredibly captivated when people take really complex things and make them simple. And I'm like,
Like using certain metaphors or analogies. I love that as well. Like, and I like when they intertwine it in the whole book and do all of it's very interesting to see, and it just gives me even more ideas of how to further develop the system or give other people ideas as well, because they're always looking to me to guide them in which specific way to write or combine. Like even nowadays, what used to be one chapter unpack template, now we have 3 or 4, because they don't apply. Some don't apply for an autobiographical book. If some only apply for a how-to book. And so I've continued to develop stuff, and I customize stuff with people when I actually understand their book fully in terms of what they should do and how they should write it.
brilliant. I think that's awesome,
Mm.
Nat. So, Nat,
Yeah.
where can people find more information about you?
Oh, well, I told you before the call, we now have purchased the writerbook.com.au URL. Well, we're building that new website, and obviously our current one is ultimate48hourauthor.com.au, but they'll both point to the same direction. And certainly it's going to be whiz bang, so you guys probably can have all of the information on there to see about us. But look me up on social media as well. I'm big on Facebook. I have a group called Author Your Way to Riches there that is specific to what we're talking about here. I've got another big group, but that's the one around authoring.
I think that's a fantastic thing. So if you are someone who's listening to this podcast and you want to learn more about how to write your own book or how to publish your own book, and you've got more questions in line with this podcast, then I would definitely check Nat out online. So ultimate48hourauthor.com.au, and the Author Your Way to Riches Facebook group, which I've seen a bit of action happening in there, and there's a very vibrant place on the topic as well. So Nat, this is the end of the episode, and I want to say a massive thank you for coming on and being a part of it. Is there any final words of wisdom you would like to leave the audience with?
Just that it's not about writing your first book, but that it's about the person you become at the other end of it.
Fantastic point there. And that is it for this episode of Confessions of a Business Owner. Thank you for tuning into this one, guys.
Bye.